On the night between October 11 and 12, 1942, aboard the Pinta caravel, someone yelled land in sight, and the history of Europe and America changed forever. This is how Christopher Columbus discovered the New World. On this occasion, we will narrate the events that made possible for Christopher Columbus to discover America on that night. The story begins 40 years earlier when in 1453 the Ottomans conquered the city of Byzantium in the former Constantinople, capital of the Eastern Roman Empire. Byzantium, which was located in present-day Istanbul, was a strategic point for the trade of Europe with the Middle East, as it was the route that connected both continents. When falling into the hands of the Turks, they began to charge tariffs for the crossing of merchandise through it. One of these merchandises was the spices from India. In order to avoid paying these taxes, other routes were taken to reach the Indies. The Portuguese were the first to initiate explorations toward the African continent with the hope of surrounding it to reach the Indies. However, many of these took too long, and motivated by the idea that the earth was spherical, Columbus proposed to the Catholic monarchs to carry out an expedition in which he would lead to the west with the hope of finding a new and direct route to the Indies. As part of this proposal, Columbus requested in return 10% of all profits obtained from the discovery, as well as being appointed Admiral of the Ocean, Viceroy, and Governor. After a while, King Ferdinand the Catholic and Queen Elizabeth accepted the proposal, and the terms were established in the document called the Capitulations of Santa Fe, signed in the city of Santa Fe on the outskirts of Granada on April 17, 1942. On August 3rd, Columbus would depart with 3 caravels from the Puerto de Palos. The Pinzon brothers would command the Niña and the Pinta, while Columbus would be in charge of the largest vessel, La Santa Maria, with them traveling another 90 men. They made a stopover in the Canary Islands, where some repairs were made to the boats and also loaded provisions for the trip. Columbus would take advantage of the trade winds, also known as easterlies, that are strong currents of air that in the northern hemisphere, due to the rotation of the earth, move from northwest to southeast. These winds could reduce the time of the journey considerably. During the trip, they encountered several complications as well as assault attempts by pirate ships. However, on October 12, 1942, the vessels reached an island where a group of native people lived and that they called Guanaani in the archipelago of Bahamas. Columbus renamed it San Salvador. Later, they continued sailing until they reached Cuba and then to the Hispaniola Island, where Haiti and the Dominican Republic are located today. During one of these trips, the now Santa Maria ran aground on the shores of the Hispaniola, and due to the damage it suffered, its remains were used to build La Navidad fort on that island. They departed back to Castilla on board the 2 caravels that they had left, La Niña and La Pinta. On the way, they found a strong storm which forced them to separate. The Pinzon brothers arrived to Galicia on board La Pinta, while Columbus arrived to the Azores, where he had some legal difficulties with the Portuguese. Later, he moved to Lisbon before he could leave for the port of Palos, from where he would move to Barcelona to meet with the Catholic monarchs who were already waiting for him. Thanks to the success of the first expedition, the Catholic monarchs rushed to the Catholic Church so that Pope Alexander VI recognized the legitimate possession of the discovered territories, and once they were recognized, they began preparations for a second expedition. Meanwhile, the Portuguese were also planning their first expedition to these new territories, so both countries signed in 1494 a treaty called the Treaty of Tordesillas, by which a meridian was established from which the territories owned by each country would be divided, being the territories to the west of the same property of Castilla, while those located to the east would be property of the Portuguese. In the following years, both countries made several expeditions in which they discovered new territories, among which are currently Jamaica, Venezuela, parts of Mexico, Panama, and Puerto Rico. There is currently new evidence that suggests that Christopher Columbus was not the first European to arrive to the Americas. Various Viking artifacts and vessels have been found in the most Nordic part of the American continent, and it is believed that they arrived from Greenland in search of a better climate and food around the year 1000 after Christ. There are other hypotheses that point out that Asian explorations also took place before the arrival of Columbus, although the evidence for them is almost non-existent. What is certain is that this era of exploration would lay the groundwork for the events that would come in the following centuries and that would change humanity forever: the conquest of America. This event would bring together civilizations that did not know about each other's existence and would generate the greatest miscegenation of history as well as the combination of very different cultures, thus creating the foundations of our society and current traditions. We hope you enjoyed this brief story about the discovery of the Americas. If so, help us by subscribing to the channel and sharing it with your family and friends. See you the next time!